This very pleasant beach view overlooking the Baltic Sea is today in Poland. In the interwar period it was the free city of Gdańsk, and before that it was Danzig in Imperial Germany. Borders changed as a result of two world wars, and after the First World War Germany was cut into two parts by a narrow piece of territory known as the Polish Corridor. You can see it in this map. This is a map from 1920 and the borders have not yet been defined, so it's possibly a bit different to what you would expect from an interwar map. This created problems for the transport links, as most had been in an east-west direction prior to World War I. So after 1919, if one wished to travel to East Prussia from the rest of Germany, it was via Poland, or by the early air services, or by the sea. And today I shall examine how travel was done by sea. In 1920, plebiscites were to be held in parts of East Prussia to determine if the territory should remain in Germany or be ceded to Poland. Anyone born in the area prior to 1905 could vote, and the Seedienst Ostpreußen or East Prussian Maritime Service was set up in January 1920 by the Reich Ministry of Transport of the Weimar Republic in order to bring voters to the regions of Marienwerder, today Kwidzyn, and Allenstein, today Olsztyn. The German state feared that these voters could have been restrained at the Polish border if they had tried to cross by land. This led to the birth of the Seedienst Ostpreußen, East Prussian Maritime Service. It functioned from Schweinemunde, today Swinoujscie, to the East Prussian port of Pillau. The photograph shows the port of Pillau in the 1930s with ships from the East Prussian Maritime Service. In the early summer of 1920, an air service was also added from Stolp, today Słupsk, to Königsberg, today Kaliningrad, via World War I biplanes. Königsberg-Dessau Airport thus became the first civil airport in Germany to be completed. Even before World War I, the population of all parts of Germany east of the Oder was in decline, with large amounts of people heading for the industrial centres in the Ruhr and around Berlin. This, of course, was at a time of strong population growth. This was called Eastern Flight, Ostflug, and increased after World War I with the political isolation of East Prussia. Large estates were held by the ruling classes in East Prussia, and they could find themselves without sufficient low-paid seasonal workers for the harvest, and therefore they wanted to put a stop to the flight. Many of these estates were bankrupt and only maintained by subsidies, which was an ongoing scandal in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Therefore, Berlin wanted to subsidize East Prussia, if only to keep its ruling classes happy. The ships initially used proved unsuitable for the long journey of 15 hours between Schweinemunde and Pillau, as they were too small and not very comfortable, and could not be used for night trips due to the lack of sleeping cabins. At the beginning, the maritime service was operated with chartered ships from private ship owners such as Erich Hasslingen. Later on, ships owned or purchased by the German state were used. In this publicity poster from 1936 we can see the routes that were offered. The first ship put into service was the Hornum of Hapag, a former minesweeper which left the port of Schweinemunde in the direction of Pillau on the 30th of January 1920. Another former minesweeper used by Hapag was the Helgoland. In October 1920, the Hapag added two more ships, Prinzessin Heinrich, which you can see in the picture, and Bubende, which you can see here. The Braunlich Shipping Company participated with the Odin and Hertha steamships. Here we can see a picture of the Hertha and a menu from the 24th of September 1920. On that day, on board was German President Friedrich Ebert, Minister of Economics Ernst Scholz, and other prominent figures from business and politics. They travelled to Königsberg for the opening of the German Eastern Fair. The North German Lloyd from Bremen used the former tender Grüß Gott from 1920, and here's a picture of him. Initially, Hapag and Bräumlich committed to 4 trips a week. Later in the summer, the ships ran daily according to a fixed schedule against a guarantee for a minimum number of passengers. In winter, 4 to 5 times a week between Pillau or Sopot and Schweinemunde. In 1927, the route was extended to the northeast to Memel, and in 1930 to Libau in Latvia. From 1933, the ships sailed west to Lübeck, Travemünde, and from 1934 to Kiel. Although the routes were popular, they were never profitable, and it was subsidized by the state. The East Prussian Sea Service was discontinued in 1939 after the start of the Polish campaign, and its ships were put into military service. The Preußen, the Hansestadt Danzig, and the Tannenberg were ships from the service that were used by the Navy as minesweepers, and all 3 were sunk during the Second World War in a Swedish minefield. I hope you found this little talk about pre-war life or interwar life in Germany of interest. I've got lots more films of this nature, so I hope that you will subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Thanks very much for watching.